Hi, everybody. We'll get started. My name is Mariela Cunha. I'm the Exhibitions and Residency Manager at Hyde Park Art Center. And I'm here with two colleagues, Sara Cortez. Hello. Who is our Artists Run Chicago Fund Assistant, and Eric.
Hi there.
Eric Thompson is our Director of Development and Communications. So we will start with a short introduction about the Artists Run Chicago Fund. Sara will do an overview of the program, and then we will leave time for questions at the end. So please hold on to your questions, or feel free to type them in the chat, and we will respond as we're able to. So to start, we thought we would offer a little bit of a history of how this program came to be. So in 2009, coinciding with the Art Center's 70th anniversary, my colleague Allison Peters-Quinn curated an exhibition called Artists Run Chicago, which was a kind of overview of artist run spaces in the city. So it was a kind of exhibition of exhibitions highlighting the different ways in which artists activate their networks, each other's practices by presenting work in various different experimental ways throughout the city. And that was also a way for Hyde Park Art Center to reconnect with its own history as a space that was started by a group of artists in the Hyde Park neighborhood in the early 1940s. So 10 years later, in 2020, to mark the anniversary of the original exhibition, our colleagues organized Artists Run Chicago 2.0, which was an opportunity to look at how artist run spaces had developed, changed, and evolved in the last 10 years. I think something that we've always been interested in is how artist run spaces are so tapped into what is happening in the city and responsive and kind of always evolving. The 2020 exhibition coincided with the pandemic and, you know, was met with all the challenges that came with making exhibitions in 2020. And at the same time, this opportunity presented to us to start this granting program. So an anonymous donor came to us at that time and said, I really want to support artist run initiatives, and you seem to have a network for it. And we said, yes, we do. And we'd be happy to, you know, act as a re-grantor. So, you know, receive the money and distribute it. But we were thinking of this exhibition as a curatorial program, and if we were thinking of distributing money, we would have made decisions differently. So we will take your money only if you're open to the idea of us doing an open call and funding programs outside of the exhibition as well. And luckily they said yes. And since 2021, we're really proud to have distributed over $1 million in grants to more than 100 different artist-run platforms, which speaks about the really amazing network of artists making things happen in the city, and to the really experimental and wonderful initiatives that exist. Eric will tell us a little bit about how this work is possible.
Sure. So, you know, Hyde Park is a nonprofit 501(c)(3) organization, so we are constantly seeking funds to make our programs happen. And in the total of our organization, about 80% of our revenue comes from contributions through private donations, foundations, government, and other public funds. The Artists Run Chicago Fund is 100% supported by contributed revenue. So it's in my department, which is 6 members, 3 of which that are devoted solely to grants, is it's our job to kind of make sure that the story is being told so that we can continue the funding as we go. As Mariana mentioned, we had a really great milestone last year where we were able to reach over $1 million in support to over 100 artist-run spaces in a short period of time. And the story is out there. So it's really exciting. The way that we really supplant these grants, just so you know, for the future, whether you are selected in this cohort or in a future cohort, your stories and your experiences matter. It is those experiences and stories that we get to advocate and celebrate that continue on this funding. And it's also just matters to us to know how cool everything is around Chicago. For this current cohort, the Artist Run Chicago Fund is being generously supported by the Good Chaos Foundation, the Local South Foundation, and the Pritzker Pucker Foundation, Family Foundation. That is a change from last year's supporters. We anticipate that there will be shifts as we go. So just so you're aware that while this is a regranting, on our side, we're just trying to get as much funding as we can for this program so that we can provide this opportunity for all of you. Does anyone have any questions about the wonderful world of development and fundraising before I leave it to the 2 best advocates of Hyde Park Art Center and Artists Run Chicago, Mariela and Sarah? Excellent.
Thank you, Eric.
Sure.
So that brings us to this year. So in 2024, we seek to award $8,000 unrestricted grants to artist-run platforms. As you might already know, the grantees will be selected through a free juried open call. The open call is currently open, and the deadline to apply is August 5th. Our goal is to then distribute the funding by December of 2024. So we'll start with the goals of the program and eligibility criteria. So, and hopefully you'll see how the questions that we ask in the application kind of reflect these goals back, which is something you can think about as you're developing your answers, is how good a fit you are for this program based on its goals. So our goal and the goal for this program is to support artist-run platforms and acknowledge their important contributions to the Chicago art community, to strengthen the network of artist-run platforms in the city, to aid self-organizing artists that create more opportunities for other visual artists to show and develop their practice in Chicago, to fund platforms that deliver diverse and experimental programs, and to boost financial support for platforms run by BIPOC, that stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color, and support BIPOC artists and communities. Also, with the goals in mind, we developed the following eligibility requirements. So the first is that all platforms to be eligible need to be artist-run. And we define artist-run platforms as platforms operated by one or several artists that aim to create opportunities that support other artists' practices by providing resources, public-facing presentations, and more. We see a distinction, and this is something where people often ask questions, between artist-run platforms and individual artists' projects within their practice that include other people. So we say artist-run platforms are different from individual artists' personal practice or socially engaged projects, which do not qualify for this grant. So while a socially engaged project might include various participants in collective making, an artist-run platform, as we define it, has the capacity to realize whether that is, present, support, in whatever way it does, other artists' ideas. Platforms do not require a physical space to be eligible, so we often get applications and have funded several nomadic platforms. And platforms do not are not required to be a particular kind of legal entity. So platforms do not need to be nonprofits or LLC or kind of legally organized. Many of the platforms that we've funded in the past are really a collective of artists working together and making things happen. To be eligible, platforms must operate in Chicago or its neighboring suburbs. They must have been founded before June of 2023. And the reason this is important is in the grant application, we ask for kind of a record of programming for a year. So platforms must have at least 1 year of programs under their belt. They must be led by artists with a demonstrated visual arts practice. And we will show how in the application we ask to see work samples. And those samples are really used to determine eligibility. So they're not, for us to decide, or the jury to decide really, because there is a completely independent jury outside of us. It's not for the jury to decide or evaluate the work in any way. It really is just to meet an eligibility requirement. Platforms must broadly engage with artists other than artists directing the platform, public audiences, and contemporary visual art. So those are the three kind of elements necessary. Platforms must be visual arts focused, and this does not include the disciplines of, traditional disciplinary film, theater, dance, music, or literature, unless the platform primarily present visual arts in dialogue with these other disciplines. So we have supported and we will continue to support platforms where these disciplines come into dialogue with each other, but the platform is really meant to support primarily visual arts. Platforms must have an annual operating budget of less than 100K, and there's no minimum budget required. Past Artists Run Chicago Fund grantees must have submitted a grant report in order to be eligible. So if you have received funding from us in past years, you can still, if you owe us an overdue grant report, submit it and become eligible. And if you have questions about whether or not you have done that before, you can feel free to reach out to us. And then the last point is to be eligible, you must not have received a grant last year. So we're asking that applicants, if they received a grant last year, take a year off. And hopefully that means that we can kind of distribute the opportunity amongst more spaces in the city.
Hi everybody, I'm Sara. I'm going to be walking us through, sorry, I'm adjusting my screen here. I'm going to be walking us through what the application process looks like. And then I'll review the application in sections. I won't be going over every question of the application. I'll just be highlighting some of the major asks and also some things that have changed from last year's application. So you can access the application through our website at hydeparkart.org. The ARC fund is listed on the homepage. Once you get to the homepage and you're ready to apply and you click the apply button, you're going to be routed to an application platform called Slide Room. Just like any other application, you'll need to create an account with Slide Room in order to submit your application. You can also preview the full application on our website. There's a download button on the ARC webpage, and you can download a Word document, a PDF document of the full application there. Once you log into Slide Room, there'll also be a preview there as well prior to starting the application. So everything's up front. You'll have the opportunity to prep before starting if you'd like. In addition to applying through Slide Room, if anybody prefers, you may submit your application to us via Word document or PDF via email at arcfund@hydeparkart.org. You can also email that same arcfund@hydeparkart.org to inquire about accommodations. And that's the same email that you would use if you have any additional questions that we're not able to answer here, or if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with Mariela or I about your specific platform, that's where you can reach us. A quick overview of the timeline. So the application is open right now, and we'll be accepting applications through Monday, August 5th at 11:59 p.m. Between August and October, the jury will be reviewing the applications. We've set a deadline for ourselves to notify grantees by October 31st, and funds will be distributed in December of this year, 2024. A quick overview of what the application looks like at large. We've got 3 main sections of the application. The first being about your artist-run platform. The second being about the platform's leaders and participants. And then the third section being application questions. And so that's kind of the meat of the application. And I'll be going into a little bit more detail what those look like. The first section about the artist-run platform. So here we learn some fundamental information about your platform, things like that you were founded, where you operate, contact information, etc. We ask for links to your platform, social media, website, blogs. This is not required of you, so you don't need to have a website. You don't need to have a social media presence necessarily. But if you do, it's helpful for us to see that. So please include that if you can. We ask for your annual operating budget for either 2023 or this year, 2024. We also ask, in the event that you are awarded, we ask who should the check be made out to. We'll touch a little bit more on this later, but essentially we kind of just want to get it into your mind, or have you all think about what receiving that money will look like. But yes, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then lastly, we ask for you to identify your platform's focus. And so you'll see all the options that we've listed out here. This is non-exhaustive, so we do leave space for you to list your own area of focus if it's outside of what we've listed here. And again, if you do have questions, feel free to hold on to them to the end or pop them in the chat and we'll get around to them. The second section of the application is about the platform's leaders and participants. In this section, we ask demographic information to help better understand who we're reaching and also to help us identify those that fall within our priority population. So all this information is kept private, and the information we're asking here should represent the individuals who run the artist-run platform and not the programs they run. So one of the specific questions we ask is how many people are involved in running your platform? And so we understand that over time, platforms may change, leaders may change, people come and go, and that the people who originally founded a platform and initiative may no longer be currently actively running the platform now. That's okay. We're interested in learning about who is currently leading decision-making with a platform. We also ask about the percentage of the current platform's founders, leaders, and decision makers. Excuse me. Identity as it relates to falling into our priority population of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And we also ask what percentage of your platform's participants and fall into our priority population. This might include the artists that your platform works with or the audience that your platform engages. So as part of the eligibility criteria, Mariela mentioned that you must be an artist yourself. And one of the ways we determine that is by asking for a work sample. And so what we ask is that you submit a document with 3 images of each platform's founders, leaders, or decision makers' artistic work. And you'll see here an example of our coworker Trans Ceramics and key information about the piece. So the title of the piece, year it was made, medium, and dimensions. Oh, a quick note, so this should be examples of the founders and decision makers' work, not a list of the platform's programming. And so this is really just to help us determine that you meet the eligibility criteria. Like Mariela said, we're not going to be evaluating or judging the artwork in any sort of way. Section 3 of the application, or the main application questions. This is where you get to shine and share with us all the amazing work that you do. We ask what your platform does and why. We ask what opportunities your platform provides for to support other artists in showing, discussing, or developing their work. We also ask what you saw in Chicago that sparked your project. And we also ask for an upload of your platform's programming for either 2023 or 2024. Like Mariela mentioned, what we want to see is that you've had at least a year of programming under your belt. And so your programming is going to look different, right, from applicant to applicant. For galleries, it may be a list of, you know, the shows, that the exhibitions for the year. If you do, what's another example?
Festival.
If you do a festival, you know, like pictures of the festival, the dates, descriptions for what went on at the festival. So it'll look really different depending on the type of work you do. So just be as descriptive as possible. Photos are always great. Anything that you can share with us to give us insight into every aspect of your programming for that year is wonderful. And so here's a little bit of more information to what to include. At the very minimum, the title or name of the programs you're running, the dates, and a description plus photos would be great. We've got some frequently asked questions. Do you want to go to these?
Sure.
Okay.
I see there are a few questions in the chat. Some we've been answering as we go, and some might be a little bit more of a conversation. But these are some questions that we hear often, so we thought we'd kind of answer them from the get-go. So we often hear from curators and administrators, people like me who want to apply for this grant because they also run somewhat experimental independent platforms. And they want to know if they can apply. And in this case, the answer is no, unless they're also practicing artists. But if you're a curator, administrator, where that is the focus of your practice, this is not the grant for you. We also hear from artists who have questions about this kind of founding date. This year, the cutoff date is June 2023. So we often hear questions like, I had been planning to launch my platform since before June of 2023, but it really started after that date. Am I still eligible? And the answer there is, it is really important for platforms to have a year of programmatic history completed. So the platform has to have been operational since before June of 2023. That is when our grant application opened that year and where we begin the cycle. This question came up in the chat already. My organization is not a 501c3. I guess first, can I still apply? The answer is yes. You do not need to be any kind of legal entity to apply. It then becomes a question of how you receive the grant. Because if you receive a grant as an individual, which you can do, this is taxable income. So this becomes, income that you as an individual received. We are very flexible in terms of how we can distribute the grants. So we can, if there is no formal organization, but there's a group of people who run the organization together, we can distribute the payment amongst a few people so that the tax burden is shared. There are a few things that we can do, and if you're interested, we can talk about it more.
The fiscal sponsor.
There are a few opportunities in the city for fiscal sponsorships, and we can also point you to those. So from here on, if you have any questions, you can feel free to unmute yourselves, type them in the chat. It might take us a few minutes to read through and respond, but if you want to ask in person, you're very welcome to.
Wow, so many questions. Okay,
Hola,
let's
hi.
see.
My name is Laura. I'm with Viarte Chicago. We put on the Little Village Arts Fest, and I have a lot of questions. So I wonder if it's better for me to just email you guys, or I don't know if I could schedule a phone call.
Yeah, if you think it like the questions are really specific to your platform.
They're very specific.
Then yeah, definitely email us at the email you see on the screen there.
Okay.
We're super happy to set up a time to talk.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity. And looking forward to see what great projects come out of this.
Thank you. So Ryan asks, as HPAC acting as the fiscal sponsor? So no, we're not. We won't be the fiscal sponsor for individual platforms, but again, you don't need a fiscal sponsorship to apply. You can apply as an individual. Did I say you had a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question about if this is a unrestricted or restricted award. And the reason I'm asking is that a report is needed to be submitted. So I just wanted to know if there are any restrictions on how the funds could be spent if awarded.
That is a really good question. There are no restrictions and the report is very open. So really, we just ask, how did you use the grant? And, you know what, really, we just want to know about the impact of the grant. You can use the grant however you want.
Louisa asks, can you define what a public audience is if a space charges entry to ensure organizers and instructors are paid? Or asked another way, do our programs have to be free to be eligible? They don't need to be free to be eligible. Your public audience is whoever you're engaging.
I think somewhere in the application, we do ask if you're charging for participation, how and why, and I think saying we need to charge to survive, and our fees are what they are, and they feel right because of this reason, that's plenty.
That's helpful,
Kimberly?
thank you.
Mhm. Kimberly, do you want to ask?
Hi, so I'm one of 3 artists who are organizing Chicago Art Book Fair for next year. And we had some questions about, so it said the platform needs to have visual art, but we will have participants within the festival that are more like poetry based, more literature based, but that will not be the only participants. We will have other artist books and visual artists. I'm gonna guess like more than half of the vendors are gonna be visual artists. Does that still qualify us as?
Yes, yeah,
Sounds
I
like
think
it.
that falls within what I was kind of explaining, where it's, you know, as long as it's kind of visual arts in dialogue with other disciplines, and the platform qualifies, it just, it's important for it to be kind of visual arts forward. That makes sense.
Gotcha. And Janelle, did I forget anything? Do you want to add anything to that? Janelle is one of my other collaborator. Cool.
Oh wait, yes, Kim, I do. So our platform hasn't, yeah, hi everyone. Our
Yeah.
platform hasn't been up since since before the pandemic, so we're trying to bring it back. So we don't have a report for 2023. Is that also okay if we show like a prior fair history because we're coming back with like a partially new team?
Yeah, I think as long as there's a program, a record of past programs, it doesn't sound like this is a brand new platform. So I think showing past iterations would be good.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. We got a question that asks, how would you define artist support as a platform focus?
I am curious about what the context is for this question.
There's the question that we ask, like, what is your platform's focus? One of the options is artist support.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that might be, I don't know, might kind of say something about the orientation of platform. For example, you know, I run a residency program. It's really focused towards supporting artists' professional development. That might be a way. I think we tried to be as broad as we could in the different things that platforms do, because we've seen applications from people who do so many different things. So I would say if that category feels right to you, it probably is.
You can also check for that question as many as you think apply to your platform, so you're not confined to just picking one.
Yeah.
Dion, I hope I'm saying that right. Please correct me if I'm not. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself? I'll pop it in the chat.
Okay, yep, that's me. I had a question about so I'm involved with a bunch of organizations. I'm wondering, so I'm the founder of the Healing Academy. I also, which is a nonprofit, but I'm also my own person. I'm an artist and I have a separate practice from being the founder of the Healing Academy. And then I'm also a member of Gamma Xi Phi Kappa, which is a professional artist fraternity. I'm wondering, can all of the organizations apply? If like I'm not the person applying for each one, is my question clear?
I think so. I think as long as all the I mean, first of all, you said you're an independent artist, and I guess as an independent artist, this is not an individual artist grant, so you would not be able to apply to support your own practice. That's one part. The other part is if if all these other organizations are eligible, you know, as individual organizations meet every other eligibility requirement, then I
Okay,
think,
so
yeah.
so for clarity, our program director for Gamma Xi Phi Kappa can apply for a group exhibition or a group experience, and the Healing Academy can apply for the Culture of Healing Fair, and Dion Victoria can apply for the Black Love Matters exhibition, which is a group exhibition.
Yeah, so this is not a grant that funds programs, it's a grant that funds platforms. So as long as the platforms are eligible, they can apply.
Oh, I understand now. Okay, thank you.
That's everybody with
I
hand.
had also, I'm sorry, I had also asked a question in the chat, so which was what makes a grant or what makes an application stand out?
That's a really good question. So you know the questions that Sarah got to where where she was like, this is really where you shine, right? I think that you know, a really good application connects those answers with the kind of grant goals of the grant, which is supporting artists for supporting artists, connecting audiences, visual artists, and publics. Like showing us how you do that in a really meaningful way, what is unique about the platform. We see that so many platforms, artist-run platforms in particular, emerge from a kind of perceived need within their community or community of artists. And so expressing how their work connects to both the mission of the grant and the needs of artists and creative communities in the city. For the really strong community.
Yeah. Another question asked in the chat was, can orgs apply in tandem, especially if they have records of collaborative arts and events?
I would think so. There again, it feels like yes, if both meet the eligibility criteria. Does that make sense?
Okay, we have another question about the budget. The annual budget, should the annual budget include both operating and programs? Yes. So the annual budget should be a snapshot of the overall budget that it takes to run your platform for the year. So that would include programs, materials, stipends that you pay to artists, salaries that you pay yourself and other employees or people in your organization. When you spend on snacks, so we're looking for the overall picture of your budget for the year.
We're writing outside that. Layla
Yes.
or Lila?
Hi, it's Leela.
Sorry.
It's all good. I kind of had two questions. First of all, foremost, so I run the Artistic Alphabet Mafia, and so very visual arts focused organization. I don't think that's gonna be an issue. My question is just defining operational better, so I have an understanding, because Alphabet Mafia has been a public platform for over a year now, but legal status was like obtained earlier this year of an LLC. Would that disqualify any
No,
application?
no, it's as long as the platform has been, running programming for, at least a year.
Awesome. And then also have member of kind of long-term partnership org, Parallel Play here. But just if organizations were filing kind of jointly, because we are planning to have a long-term partnership, will be the best way to frame that or present programming.
I think it depends on what the programming is. I think it might be worth it to plan if you. I feel like a kind of a question about how to present the work in the application might require more of a conversation. So if you wanna, email us and try to set up a time. We can do that.
Amazing. Yeah, that would be great. I can CC the organizers of Parallel Play into that.
Awesome. Yeah, it was asked where can this recording be viewed? We're gonna put it up on the Artists Run Chicago Fund webpage, so you can find it there by the end of this week. And when would the end of the grant report, the report be due? So the final report,
Would be around a year after the grants are received. So if we're mailing checks in December, a year from then.
I think that was all the questions in the chat. Does anybody have any lingering questions, thoughts, concerns? Again, feel free to email us to talk specifically about our platform. We're more than happy to meet and talk.
Amazing. If there aren't any more questions, thank you for joining us. Please be in touch with more questions and
Oh, Ryan has a question. Go ahead, Ryan.
okay.
Ryan, do you want to put it in the chat?
Yeah, if people need to close out, feel free, but we'll be here for Ryan.
We can't hear you, Ryan. It looks like, Ryan, it looks like you're unmuted, but we're still not getting audio.
We still can't hear you.
Sorry, Ryan. Oh, there we go. Okay. Brian says, so if part of our operating budget is something that the people who run the space usually contribute, but it doesn't get considered as part of our budget. Basically, I've been running the space Triangle for 12 years, and at no point, has Triangle paid rent for our performance space, would rent for the space. Right. Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Yay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Put the headphones back in.
Would the rent of the space,
I mean, we have other costs. I could put it, I could other programming. We run,
yeah,
upward of 20. We like run average of like 25, 26 events a year, and this year it's been dramatically more. Probably potentially put on twice that many. All of the rent, because it's a live work venue space, performance venue space. All of the rent has just been historically covered by the people who live here and run the space.
yeah. That's a good question. I mean, I would say are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I would say, if the rent is not an organizational cost, then it doesn't need to be considered in the operations budget. Does that make sense?
Well,
I know it's a very real cost, right?
yeah, I mean, right. It's a very real cost that, like, in order to support a lot of touring, performing artists, etc., like, and to be able to then also basically the only costs we consider in the organization are sustaining our equipment, and otherwise we've just volunteered. I mean, I've volunteered time and space for, like I said, like over a decade. So just the question of like, it's a cost. It's just not something that I've considered because it's something that has been considered in kind, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you could.
We don't
So
make enough
you-
money to make it worth it. I don't get paid. The only people who get paid really are the artists.
Yeah. So we asked for the budget really to consider the kind of scale of the operation. It sounds like regardless of whether or not you include this cost in the budget, it would be eligible. So I think you could add it to the budget and say this is an in-kind contribution.
Okay.
And really, we hear from a lot of people, and because we're working with such kind of DIY organizations, a lot of the budgets that we get are kind of estimates. Really,
Sure.
So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Cool. Thank you. I'm glad we could.
Thank you.
Yes.
Amazing.
Thanks, everybody.